It's Devin with Cognito Moto, and this week we'll be building a subframe for the seat, mounting the shocks, and mounting the exhaust. All right, so here's the original subframe that holds the seat on. It's got 4 bolts on it, and we just removed it, and we're gonna make a new one. So here's the new loop here, and this is the original mounting location for the original frame. We've made these little blocks here that allow us to attach the tube back to the frame, and it's gonna be a bolt-on kit, so we use existing holes. We're not welding anything, just the frame itself. We're not actually welding to the bike frame. So the original rubber grommets that hold the gas tank are rotten and no longer there. So we want to replace those so we can get the tank set properly, so we can set the tank level to the seat. We've also got the new one for the front as well. Just make sure everything's seated just right. So we've put the bike on some boards just to get as close as we can to where the bike's gonna sit once we get all the shocks and everything mounted back up. So now that we have the gas tank seated where it will sit, we're just gonna throw this little angle finder on the gas tank and set 0. And now I'm going to set the tail section to the same angle as the gas tank. It's got a magnet in it, just sticks to it. All right. So for the bottom section here, the original mount, or the original frame attached right there, we've made these to attach. It's got a slight angle, and that'll so that it sits like this and brings it in to the upper frame. Can you see through there? So we've already notched this pipe. I kind of took a rough angle just by throwing a scale up here and trying to figure out where it is. And then we cut it on the CNC. I was just kind of curious. Normally, you do this with a saw and a file, but I was kind of curious to see how accurate we could get it and what it turned out like, and it turned out pretty good. So we can be consistent, we can duplicate it. I'm pretty happy about that. But so here's the first one we did, and I'll throw it up here. All right, you can see the angle's a little off here in the back. Now that I have something I can throw up there pretty accurately where things are going to be, I can pull a good measurement off of this. Yeah, there you go. All right, so now I can put this in here and get an accurate measurement. And we're at 55. So with that information, we went back and cut a second pipe at 55 degrees. And that fits pretty good. So now we've got two angles going here, the angle that we cut in the base mount and the mitered angle, or notched angle. All right, so we picked up a set of Olin shocks we're gonna use here. And next we need to create the mount for the top of the shock. So we're just gonna throw this up here. So since we have the bike sitting on those boards, it's sitting a little lower than where we want it to be. Plus we want to raise the back end up a little bit just for visual. And we've got these blocks here. This is something that we sell this. We got to cut it down the angle to make it match up here. We've got about 10 degrees we need to take out of it. But we've got this set back to the original location from the hole back, which I think was like 10.5 inches. Marked it, and then we're gonna put this mount here and put a shock stud. Sweet. Let's see if we can smoke that Harbor Freight snipper. Yeah, that'll work good. Sweet. Just gotta notch it. So a friend of the shop, Cal, came by yesterday and volunteered to weld out the frame for us. I'm not a welder, and I gladly took him up on that offer.
So you got just a couple of gentle high spots put in the hole. Show less, so I can drive home with into the back side of that. Somewhere.
So here's a new shock mount that we made for the BMW. The diameter is a little smaller, it's 10 millimeter than what we typically run, so we had to make some custom ones for this. Next we'll take this and we'll get the spacing right for the frame and the shock, make sure the shock's up and down, and then we'll come back and clean up the end. Probably don't even need it.
No, I'm sure you don't, but I know you like to know that it's going to work. You could offer.
All right, so a few things to note about the subframe here. The subframe is center line of the bike, but it's not center line of the frame towards the bottom. You can see this on the stock frame. One shock mounts to the inside of the frame and the other shock mounts to the outside of the frame. So we've made these studs here to account for that, and that lines back up the shock to the swing arm. This is centered, but the angles for these drop tubes change. This one's a little less, this one's a little more, but we've got everything dialed in, and it bolts up, comes off, we can put it back on. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mount a plate to the bottom here, just to give us somewhere to mount stuff, add a little rigidity, and just clean it up from the back end. All right, so here we have the Olin shocks we're gonna be using for this build. The space here is about 3 millimeters smaller than what it is stock, so they include these washers here to bring it back out. We'll go ahead and mount the shock. I'll show you the alignment. On the length here, we wanted to keep geometry pretty close to stock, so we retained the length from here to here as the original frame. The only difference being we mounted the shock below the subframe here a bit more, so we're about 1 inch higher, and we kept this straight. So all in all, we probably raised the bike about 1 inch in the back, which gave us a little more rake, and that's what we wanted. So the headers that we're using are mack stainless steel headers. For the muffler, we actually took this off of a 2017 Street Twin Triumph. We just had to detab it and put some mounts to mount it to the original mounting locations on the back there. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode, and check back with us next Monday for another update. Thanks for watching.